daily intelligence brief. Today is Wednesday, August 20th, 2025, and here's a thought to kick us off. Intelligence reports, well, they're a lot like that midweek coffee. They're best consumed quickly, or they'll get cold. So our mission today is to cut through the noise of yesterday's intelligence brief, that's Tuesday, August 19th, 2025, and really extract those truly important nuggets of knowledge and insight. Think of it as your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, maybe with a few surprising facts along the way.
And it's quite a report we're diving into. This brief gives you a pretty comprehensive snapshot of global events just from yesterday, and it's all meticulously categorized for reliability. So for yesterday's report, the general classification flagged a moderate threat level.
Moderate. Okay, so not DEFCON 1, but definitely not quiet either.
Exactly. It means we're not seeing, immediate existential threats, but certainly a landscape dotted with regional crises and economic tremors that demand close attention. The information itself has an Admiralty code of B2.
B2, remind us what that means.
That tells us the sources are mostly reliable and have been corroborated, often by official statements or, credible media outlets. And for confidence, it's a 3, which means reasonable confidence in the assessment, even if some bits rely on third-party reports.
Got it. So these classifications are pretty useful then. Gives us a sense of solidity.
Incredibly useful, yeah. They give you a quick sense of how robust the intelligence is. Make sure you're getting insights you can, actually trust.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. If we look at the bottom line up front from yesterday's brief, what's the executive summary telling us? The big picture.
Well, the overarching picture from yesterday is one of increasing complexity and rising tensions. We're seeing a clear uptick in geopolitical strain and also domestic unrest across several key regions.
Like where specifically?
Well, the ongoing conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine, for instance, they're still dominating diplomatic conversations, shaping the international agenda. Over in Asia, the focus was kind of a mix. Devastating natural disasters on one hand, and some significant behind-the-scenes leadership maneuvering on the other.
And economically?
Economically, the indicators are definitely flashing caution, particularly among investors waiting for signals on U.S. monetary policy. And there's this growing undercurrent of concern about how AI, artificial intelligence, is going to reshape society.
AI keeps coming up.
It does. The brief also flagged strained security cooperation down in Latin America, and a deeply troubling surge in violence against aid workers in Africa, plus some notable political shifts in Oceania.
Wow, okay, so a lot happening. What does this all mean at a higher level for supply chains, markets?
Yeah, what it boils down to is potential significant implications for global supply chains and overall market stability. Things are interconnected.
It's always fascinating how quickly those global anxieties translate into market signals. And something that immediately caught my eye from the North American economic front was the movement in gold prices. What's the story there?
That's a great one to pick up on because gold often acts as that safe haven during uncertainty, right? But yesterday, it actually dipped.
Dipped. Interesting.
Yeah, specifically, gold prices fell 0.4% to U.S. $3,317.71 per ounce yesterday, August 19th. And this happened right before the U.S. Federal Reserve's crucial Jackson Hole meeting.
The Fed meeting. Always moves the needle.
Exactly. And traders are pricing in, get this, an 85% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut. So what's really interesting here is that this immediate dip suggests the market's focus isn't just on, say, geopolitical chaos. It's on the nuance of central bank policy. It's kind of a reminder that sometimes those whispers from the Fed about interest rates, they're louder than the global headlines.
Even when the world feels on edge.
Right, even then. Though it's worth noting, UBS did raise its price target for gold to U.S. $3,600, so maybe some longer-term optimism despite the dip.
So mixed signals then. Lower prices meaning risk on, but rate cuts could boost it later.
Precisely. Lower gold can signal risk-on sentiment, but those anticipated rate cuts could eventually weaken the dollar. And that would provide strong support for commodities like gold down the line. This data, by the way, is B2, highly reliable sources.
Good to know.
Yes.
Okay, before we continue digging into the regions, let's pause for a moment. Here's something worth knowing. This deep dive is powered by NextSight, a global investigations and intelligence leader. Their open-source intelligence OSINT platform, SiteConnect, is really the engine behind these reports, and it allows for deep customization. From really complex international investigations to high-level corporate intelligence, their work just operates on another level. They combine speed, precision, and crucially, verified accuracy. You can learn more at www.next-site.com. Okay, that's powerful stuff. Now, beyond the markets, what else from North America is really grabbing headlines? I'm particularly curious, did the brief highlight anything around technology's impact? Culture, politics?
Absolutely. One of the really significant themes yesterday was the escalating public sentiment around AI. A recent Reuters Ipsos poll, pretty big sample, over 4,400 U.S. adults, found that a staggering 71% fear AI will permanently displace workers.
71%. Wow.
Yeah. And even more, 77% worry it could be used to incite political chaos. And nearly half, 48%, actually oppose AI being used in military targeting.
That's quite the level of anxiety. Where's that coming from?
Well, it's not just abstract fear, right? It stems from the rapid adoption of AI technologies we're seeing everywhere, plus recent controversies around chatbots and deepfakes, and frankly, the existing gaps in regulation. People feel like it's moving too fast.
And does this public mood have real-world effects? Beyond just, polls?
Oh, definitely. It has tangible economic implications. It could potentially dampen consumer spending, and it certainly influences how corporations decide to invest in automation moving forward. It's a factor now.
And speaking of societal impact and public sentiment, it's kind of jarring to see cultural institutions becoming such a flashpoint. The brief mentioned President Trump weighing in on places like the Smithsonian. What's the play there?
It seems like a clear move to redefine cultural narratives. Yesterday, President Trump escalated his attacks on the Smithsonian Institution. He actually instructed lawyers to review their museum programs, claiming they focus on the negatives.
Focus on the negatives.
Yeah, as part of this broader campaign against what he labels woke institutions. We saw social media posts from him directly saying these museums only tell America's worst stories.
So it's really about the narrative.
Exactly. It reflects the intense political polarization we're seeing.
Yeah.
And it could lead to significant pressure on these cultural institutions, potentially affecting their funding, maybe even the historical narratives they choose to present. This one was flagged C3, by the way. Reasonable confidence, but perhaps based on less direct sourcing for the specific instruction to lawyers.
Okay, C3. Got it. The report also flagged some interesting executive orders. Something about federal research and space policy. How does that fit in?
These orders seem to reflect a broader push for, let's say, greater political control over key sectors. The American Astronomical Society raised concerns about recent executive orders, one on August 7th, another August 13th. These grant political appointees significantly greater control over federal research grants.
More political control over science funding.
Essentially, yes. And at the same time, another order aims to streamline commercial space launch licensing. So it looks like an effort to align federal scientific funding more closely with presidential priorities and also accelerate private sector activity in the rapidly growing space industry. That's flagged B3. Mostly reliable, reasonable confidence.
Okay, let's shift across the Atlantic now. Europe. The situation with Ukraine and broader security feels, well, complex. Some mixed messages, maybe.
Right.
What's the read on NATO's discussions and President Trump's role in all this?
It really raises some important questions about alliance cohesion and long-term strategy. So NATO leaders are meeting today, August 20th, to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine. And we also saw President Trump signaling potential air support for Ukraine, which sounds positive for Kiev.
Okay, air support.
But simultaneously, Britain co-chaired a coalition of the willing meeting, specifically to prepare security guarantees without deploying troops. So these efforts are aimed at offering support, but trying to avoid direct military entanglement.
Right, trying to walk that line.
Exactly. But what really complicates the picture are the contradictory statements reportedly from President Trump. Euronews reported, and this is flag C3, so treat with some caution, that he told European leaders U.S. troops would not be sent to defend Ukraine.
Wait, so potential air support, but no ground troops.
Yep.
And what about NATO?
He apparently also said that Kyiv's NATO membership hopes were impossible, along with reclaiming Crimea. So this stark divergence really highlights potential fragmentation within the alliance. These differing views could significantly influence EU foreign policy and, of course, Ukraine's future.
And how's that playing out online?
Well, social media commentary already reflects this uncertainty. We saw hearsay, people lamenting that NATO security guarantees without full membership would leave Ukraine in limbo. The overall threat level here is moderate, given the stakes.
Understood. Moderate threat, B2 and C3 flags. A complex picture indeed. And just a reminder, as you listen, Nexight's capabilities extend far beyond just reporting. Their OSINT specialists and investigative teams connect dots across borders, they validate sources, and they transform fragmented information into genuinely actionable strategies. Okay, let's turn our attention now to the Middle East. potential breakthroughs, but also persistent challenges. The Gaza ceasefire negotiations. They seem to be at a really critical point. What are the dynamics there?
They certainly are, and the stakes just couldn't be higher. Hamas accepted a proposal yesterday, August 19th. It was mediated by Qatar and Egypt for a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza.
60 days. What does the deal involve?
It involves a prisoner exchange, specifically 200 Palestinian prisoners for half of the remaining 50 Israeli hostages. And it's kind of envisioned as a step towards broader peace, not just a pause.
Okay. How's Israel responding?
Well, Israel's currently weighing the offer, but this is happening amidst immense domestic pressure. You've got far-right ministers strongly opposing any concessions. At the same time, large protests from hostage families are growing, demanding a deal.
The real balancing act.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, military commanders are also planning an offensive if these talks fail, so that adds another layer of urgency. Social media, as you'd expect, reflects deeply polarized views. Hearsay includes Hamas supporters saying, "Our prisoners will return soon," while Israeli hostage families are tweeting things like, "No deal, no peace."
So very high stakes. What are the implications if this falls apart?
Well, the implication is clear. Failure to reconcile these positions could very quickly reignite widespread violence and protests. And if these ceasefire talks collapse, we could definitely see safe haven demand for gold rebound abruptly. Both aspects here are flagged B3, high threat level.
B3, high threat. Okay. Beyond the immediate conflict, any other diplomatic efforts? You mentioned Lebanon.
Yes, U.S. envoy Tom Barrack met with Lebanese leaders yesterday. He was promoting a plan for Hezbollah disarmament.
Disarmament in exchange for?
In exchange for economic aid and Israeli withdrawal from some occupied hilltops, this initiative aims for a longer-term ceasefire and stability in southern Lebanon. So it highlights efforts to de-escalate regional tensions through diplomacy. That's B3, moderate threat.
Interesting. And there was also something about regional cooperation against illicit trade.
Indeed. A pretty powerful example, actually. Iraqi intelligence led Lebanese forces to destroy a major Captagon amphetamine factory.
Captagon. That's been funding a lot of illicit activity, right?
Billions, yeah. This factory was in Yamoun, Lebanon. It really highlights a crucial instance of cross-border collaboration against drug trafficking. Another B3 moderate threat item.
Okay, shifting gears now. Critical humanitarian issues and other significant global developments. Pakistan. Dealing with severe natural disasters.
That's right. Pakistan's still very much in recovery mode from devastating flash floods and also wildfires. As of yesterday, they've restored about 70% of the electricity grid. Roads are reopening, but over 300 people tragically died.
Awful. And there was an earthquake, too.
Yeah, an earthquake also jolted Islamabad yesterday. Thankfully, no casualties reported from that. That flood grid info is B3, moderate threat. The earthquake is B4, low threat. Separately and just tragically, a bus collision in Afghanistan's Herat province killed 71 deported migrants, including 17 children.
Oh, terrible. Just highlights the dangers.
Immense human cost, fragility of life in these crisis zones. That's B4, moderate threat.
And then Africa. A particularly distressing update about the safety of aid workers. The numbers sounded grim.
They are grim. And it really raises important questions about, international responsibility, resource allocation. The UN reported yesterday that 18 humanitarian workers have been killed, 7 injured, and 12 kidnapped just in West and Central Africa this year, 2025 alone.
Just this year?
Yeah. And to put that in perspective, nearly 19,000 people total have been killed in the region this year. And only a shocking 16% of the required funding, that's US $7.8 billion needed, has actually been met. 16%.
That's appalling.
It is. And the violence continues. In Nigeria, bandits tragically killed at least 27 worshippers in a mosque in Katsina State. That's C3, high threat. Aid workers' advocacy groups, understandably, are using hashtags like #NoToTarget on social media, hearsay, but reflects the desperate call for protection.
And this violence connects to broader issues, right?
Absolutely. This rising violence directly impacts humanitarian access. It also correlates with displaced populations who often feel they have nowhere else to go but maybe towards Europe. This whole situation is B3, high threat level.
Is there any positive news on the humanitarian front?
Well, there is a small counterpoint. Japan contributed US $2.5 million via the UNHCR to enhance flood resilience in South Sudan. It should benefit about 26,000 refugees and host communities. It's a small, but, significant step. B4, low threat.
Okay, turning now to Latin America. The brief mentioned a critical public health crisis in Argentina. fentanyl related.
Yeah, and what really stands out here is a concerning breakdown in regulatory oversight. Argentina's health minister dismissed the pharmacovigilance director of their medicines agency, ANMET, basically their national drug safety chief.
Why? What happened?
It was after nearly 100 patients died from bacterially contaminated fentanyl vials.
100 deaths from contaminated medicine.
Yes. Investigations have revealed serious regulatory irregularities. It highlights the profound impact of lax inspections and really underscores the critical need for companies to rigorously audit their suppliers. It exposes huge vulnerabilities. B3, moderate threat.
A stark reminder. And we also saw a significant escalation in Venezuela yesterday. Militia mobilization.
Yes, a major mobilization. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro deployed 4.5 million militia members nationwide yesterday.
4.5 million. Why?
It was reportedly in response to the U.S. announcing it would send naval forces to waters near Latin America, though it's important to note Washington denies actually deploying the ships. Meanwhile, the U.S. also doubled the reward for Maduro's arrest.
So tensions ratcheting up significantly.
Hugely. Venezuelan social media accounts, we saw hearsay reports, amplified Maduro's speech with slogans like, "No empire will touch our soil." It indicates a nationalist mobilization. That could strengthen regime support, maybe, but it also significantly increases the risk of military confrontation. This situation directly raises the risk of supply disruptions in Caribbean shipping lanes, too. Could push up regional freight rates. This is flagged B3, high threat level.
High threat, understood.
Meanwhile,
Next door in Mexico, there seems to be a dispute over cross-border security cooperation.
indeed, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum explicitly denied any agreement with the U.S. DEA for a joint operation called Project Portero.
Project Portero, deny.
Yes, flatly denied. She asserted that any cooperation will respect Mexico's sovereignty. Mexican users, according to hearsay, trended #NoProjectPortero. It signals pretty deep distrust of U.S. law enforcement involvement on Mexican soil. It indicates that while cooperation might be desired, it has to be on Mexico's terms, which could potentially complicate anti-cartel efforts if coordination isn't clear and mutual. B3, moderate threat.
Okay, finally, let's wrap up our regional scan down in Oceania. Political stability in Tasmania, it seems.
It looks like it, yes. The Liberal government in Tasmania survived a no-confidence motion against Premier Jeremy Rockcliffe yesterday. The crossbenchers sided against Labour, rejecting the motion pretty firmly.
What does that signal?
Well, it suggests the public probably has little appetite for early elections right now. Reduces political risk for investors, maybe. Stability matters. We saw hearsay comments online like, stability matters more than politics. Furthermore, a Liberal MP, Jackie Petrusmar, was elected Speaker of the House by a solid 25-10 vote. That further signals crossbench alignment with the government, should mean smoother sailing for legislation. Both items B3, low threat.
And our first-of-its-kind conviction in New Zealand, espionage.
Yes, this is quite significant for New Zealand's national security landscape. An unnamed New Zealand soldier pleaded guilty yesterday to attempted espionage. He apparently tried to pass sensitive military information to an undercover police officer posing as a foreign agent.
Wow. First conviction ever for that.
Marks the country's first espionage conviction, yes. New Zealanders were debating it online. Hearsay again, some calling for stricter vetting, others worried about overreach. This incident might very well lead to tighter security clearances across their defense sector. B3, moderate threat.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. What does this all mean when you pull it together? Beyond the individual headlines, what are those overarching spotlight themes connecting these diverse global events? What are the threads?
Yeah, when you connect all these individual pieces to the bigger picture, three key themes really stand out from yesterday's brief. First, we're seeing this dynamic of ceasefire negotiations versus militia mobilization. You've got a potential turning point in the Gaza war.
Hopeful, maybe.
Right, potentially. Contrasted very sharply with the escalating risks in the Caribbean due to Venezuela's actions. It's a fascinating study in opposing approaches to conflict right now. Second, there's that strong undercurrent of economic uncertainty and investor sentiment. We saw how AI fears and central bank actions are shaping global market caution, reflected in things like gold prices.
A reminder that psychology matters in markets.
Huge factor. And third, we have the persistent humanitarian and governance risks, the critical challenges of aid worker safety, climate vulnerability like in Pakistan, and significant regulatory gaps like that terrible fentanyl crisis in Argentina.
And these themes connect, right? They aren't isolated.
Oh, absolutely. They're deeply interconnected. AI anxiety can fuel populist politics, Militia mobilization directly impacts global oil markets and shipping lanes. And lax regulations, as we saw, create severe vulnerabilities in crucial supply chains worldwide. It's all linked.
And for decision makers listening,
Yeah.
people need to act on this stuff. The report offered some recommended actions.
It did, yes. Several priority actions. For example, enhancing geopolitical risk monitoring is crucial. That might mean setting up cross-functional task forces to track developments in places like Gaza, Venezuela, and then adjusting supply chain routes or security protocols proactively.
Makes sense.
Well, another key recommendation is preparing for AI governance and workforce communications. Develop clear guidelines for responsible AI deployment and proactively engage with employees. Address those job loss fears we talked about.
Crucial for internal stability.
Definitely. Also, reinforcing humanitarian security compliance is vital, especially for operations in high-risk regions like West and Central Africa. That means investing in staff safety, securing funding contingencies. It's a duty of care issue. Lastly, things like conducting emergency audits of supply chains for regulatory compliance, especially for pharma and medical products, to detect risks like contamination. And engaging governments on security cooperation frameworks, like in Mexico, to help avoid misunderstandings and strengthen anti-cartel efforts.
Really practical, actionable stuff. Okay, that concludes our deep dive into the Tuesday, August 19th, 2025 Intelligence Brief, brought to you on this Wednesday, August 20th edition of The Deep Dive. Quite a lot of process, really, from shifting geopolitical sands to critical humanitarian needs, economic anxieties, all across the globe.
It really does raise an important question, though, doesn't it, for all of us listening? In a world where information is, well, both abundant and fragmented, how do you ensure your own intelligence stream stays sharp, stays accurate?
A question to ponder. We certainly hope this deep dive helps you stay informed and sharp, cutting through the noise to get to what truly matters. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and Spotify. And share your thoughts, like, comment, spread the word. We appreciate it. Stay informed, stay sharp, and may your Wednesday be definitely more productive than your inbox.